Westchester County Government. Our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, is with me as always. I have the Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services, Richard Wishney, and the Deputy Commissioner, Susan Spear, is with us as well. We have the Office of Emergency Management Director, Dennis Del Borgo, who is with us. We have County Police Lieutenant Joseph Peters, who is with us as well. And we hope for each of them to have a chance to speak. And then we will also have Spanish translation of the gist of our report as well, and we appreciate being able to communicate to our Spanish-speaking neighbors as well. We've all been made aware over the last a few days of the approach of Hurricane Henri, which is going to make landfall as it is expected at this hour in the eastern portion of Long Island. The route of the hurricane is quite debatable, and there's different models that show it going in different directions. The most recent model, moving slightly more to the east of Long Island, will cross over the Long Island Sound at a distance from Westchester County going into southeastern Connecticut. But the impacts of the storm will be felt here in Westchester County. The stretch of the storm is over 250-mile range, so we will see impacts here in Westchester County over the course of today, Sunday, until Henri leaves the area a little bit later in the day. The eye of the hurricane, in the center of the hurricane, has counterclockwise winds that rotate in a fashion where if you are east of the eye of the hurricane, you get heavy wind. If you're west of the eye of the hurricane, you get heavy rain. Now, you may recall last year in August, we had Hurricane Isaias come through, and we at that time were on the east side of the hurricane, and we got lots of wind. And when we get tremendous amounts of wind, we worry about our power system going down. That's exactly what happened a year ago, and we saw that we had a great degree of difficulty there. When we've had hurricanes where we get heavy water, then we're worried about the amount of flooding that we have, particularly high tide, that makes it impossible for that water to drain out to the Long Island Sound or in some cases out to the Hudson River, and then it backs up and we have flooding issues. So no matter what the direction of the storm is and what the impacts are, there will be things that we will have to deal with as a county government. And I hasten to add that we do these efforts in coordination with all of the local governments, with all of the various utilities, the various other major entities. This is not a one-man band by any of us. And if we work together cooperatively, we get through the day as we have in the past, and we do that successfully. I will mention that with the projection that the storm was going to hit, we took a number of preemptive actions. We announced yesterday the closing of all of our major park facilities, particularly Playland Amusement Park, our beaches, Playland Beach, also Glen Island Beach, both which face out to the Sound Shore, and Croton Point Park Beach, which is on the Hudson side. Those beaches are closed today. Playland is closed today. Our 4 public pools are closed today: Sprain Ridge and Tibbetts Brook and Yonkers, Wilson Woods and Mount Vernon, and Saxon Woods and White Plains. They're all closed today. Our popular Bicycle Sunday program has been canceled for this Sunday. We expect it to resume next Sunday. That's on the Bronx River Parkway. And then also the county center is closed today as a vaccination center. So anyone who was planning in the middle of the hurricane to come and get a vaccination, this is not the day to do it. We have options tomorrow and thereafter to satisfy you at our various clinics and also at the county center. So those facilities are closed. We've also had the opportunity to have a call this morning at 8:30 a.m. Dennis Del Borgo ran the call, as he does in these emergency situations. He'll chat a little bit about some of the output of that. But that involved a large number of municipal officials from the various communities all across the county, and we exchanged information. So the information that we're conveying today is as recent as we can make it, but we'll be in touch all day today. Each municipality has the capacity to establish their own emergency operations center. We in the county have an emergency operations center that's located in Hawthorne. It's in the same facility where the state operates out of, so we have immediate state-local coordination and coordination, as I said before, with the various utilities that serve us. The issue of various shelters, decisions, if people need to be evacuated, those shelters will be established by local governments. At this point, none have been established. There are some preparatory efforts made, and should we have those things happen, we will certainly convey that information to our friends in the press as well as to the public in whatever way that we can best do that. Those decisions are local decisions, but we work alongside of them to make sure that happens. If we have to evacuate a low-lying area for that shelter, or if anyone else, either because they lose power or they have some kind of a reason to leave their home, those shelters will serve the purpose of getting them through the course of the day and, if necessary, overnight, but we haven't reached that point yet. I have signed into effect, as of 8 o'clock this morning, a local state of emergency proclamation for the county of Westchester. Now, you may wonder, because the governor already made a proclamation for 24 counties yesterday, and then a number of municipalities have done the same thing, why do we have this redundancy? The ability of any of these emergency proclamations gives the chief executive of any of these governments authority that they do not normally have. That would mean to close down a road, to evacuate a section of the community, to take certain actions because of the emergency. And by establishing the emergency proclamation, that does convey these authorities and powers for a limited period of time. We would expect that under most circumstances, these emergency authority would work for the balance of the day, perhaps into tomorrow, but we've kept it open-ended because we don't know what the aftermath would be. We don't know if we're going to lose power on some systematic level and so forth. We have been in touch with Con Edison and New York State Electric and Gas. We've been in touch with Altice and Verizon. We've been in touch with the various water companies that serve our area. We'll touch on some of that as we have different individuals reach out. This is nothing new to Westchester County. Prior to my service as county executive, this county functioned during Superstorm Sandy in 2012. It functions during Hurricane Irene in 2011. I remember all the way back to Hurricane Gloria in 1985, which made landfall in Long Island and Westchester County long before my service in county government was able to respond. The key response is by the professionals that we have in this government, people that don't come and go with administrations, but people who've made a lifelong commitment to emergency services, a lifelong commitment to law enforcement, and we rely on those professionals to help us get through this. I have great confidence in those professionals not only who work for the county government, but I have confidence in those professionals who work for the city governments, the town governments, and the village governments, and the state government as well. And you should have the same confidence. And should we be in a situation of crisis where we need to follow the instructions of law enforcement, follow the instructions of emergency services, please comply with those requests. It is done for your safety, your family's safety, and so that we get through this experience. There's some common sense issues that Commissioner Wishney and Deputy Commissioner Spear will talk about. You know, your mother told you about this once a long time ago, and your father told you, but you have to be reminded, and I have to be reminded, don't drive through standing water, and so forth. Take this message to heart. We want to all be safe through this, come through the other side, and then go on with the rest of our lives and all the other things that are important to us. So what I'd like to do next is ask Dennis Del Borgo to talk to us, give us an update on the weather and some of the responsibilities that he carries on his shoulders whenever we have this kind of a crisis. Dennis.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and good morning, everyone. I'm Dennis Del Borgo. I'm the Director of the Office of Emergency Management, which is a division of the Department of Emergency Services. Sorry about that. I'll leave the meteorology to the professionals, but in terms of the weather, a brief overview here of where we stand with respect to Tropical Storm Henri and the potential impacts here in Westchester County. This certainly has been a very challenging storm to forecast, to prepare for over the last few days. A lot of westward tracking, different forecast advisories providing us different information. However, we woke up this morning with some very encouraging news. An eastward shift in our projected forecast track, pretty dramatic. However, it's important that we don't lose sight of what's important here, is that we prepare, be ready for the potential impacts of Tropical Storm Henri as it approaches eastern Long Island. Henri is expected to make landfall somewhere in southern New England or potentially on the eastern end of Long Island later this morning or early this afternoon, and we're tracking that very closely in the Emergency Operations Center. It is a tropical storm with maximum sustained wind of 70 miles an hour, currently 40 miles or so south-southeast of Montauk Point, New York. And as we continue to track this, we're certainly thinking about our partners out there in Suffolk County, the people that live there. They're going to have a rough day today, maybe a rough week depending on the impact there, so our thoughts are with them as they make their final preparations. We have a number of watches and warnings posted for Westchester County that residents should be aware of: the tropical storm warning, a flood watch, and a storm surge warning for our Sound Shore communities and our Lower Hudson River communities, Yonkers and Hastings-on-Hudson. So this storm could certainly produce heavy rainfall sufficient to cause flooding in areas vulnerable to flooding, or low-lying and urban poor drainage areas, urban small streams. Certainly some coastal flooding is possible along the western Long Island Sound and the Lower Hudson River. We are expecting those impacts throughout the day today. It is raining out there now. We're seeing some of those outer bands start to move into the area and possibly overnight into Monday. Strong winds may result in downed trees and power lines, as we saw during most recently during Isaias about a year ago. Those winds could potentially gust to tropical storm force, although we are not specifically anticipating that here. That certainly remains a possibility as the impacts of Henri could be felt as far as 125 miles away from the eye. The combination of rain and wind hazards, it did rain last night, it's raining now, so if we do get that gusty wind later, we could see some downed trees and power lines, resulting in power outages. But our primary concern at this point, as the county executive mentioned, is our rainfall totals. So we could be looking at up to 3 inches or more of rainfall, locally higher amounts associated with those outer rain bands from Henri. So I would encourage everyone to continue to monitor the weather. Weather.gov is your best source of information, as well as the National Hurricane Center's official website. And if you are along the coastal areas, whether they be on the Hudson River or on the Sound Shore, we do have an astronomical high tide, full moon last night, so it's important to keep an eye on that. And we'll be available for any questions later. Thank you.
I want to highlight a couple of other facts before we turn to Lieutenant Joseph Peters to talk a little bit about some of the areas within his responsibilities. We're very appreciative to the state of New York for their willingness to be helpful. I've been in touch with Mike Copey and Edgar Santana, both are Westchester residents who work for the state of New York in very high capacities. They will be interacting with our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, today to determine if there's any assistance that we need from the state of New York. They have deployed members of the National Guard to be helpful, primarily in Suffolk County, but some are available to the rest of us. And so we want to thank the state, and Joan, who's with us here today, will coordinate with the state on any additional assistance that we need from that standpoint. Some of our county departments are each responsible for different elements of this. The Department of Social Services is tasked with monitoring housing and shelter needs for its population, coordinating with Child Protective Services, Adult Protective Services, and again, any of those with housing needs that fit into that category. Our Department of Environmental Facilities is the department that runs our wastewater treatment plants, commonly called sewer treatment plants. We have 7 of them, 4 of them on the Long Island Sound, 3 of them on the Hudson River side. And of course, because they discharge into those bodies of water, they are right on those bodies of water or very close to them. On the Sound Shore side, we have a plant in Portchester on Fox Island Road. We have one in Rye City, and it's Disborough Park, a little bit off of inland, but on the Blind Brook. We have one in Mamaroneck, right in Harbor Island. We have one in New Rochelle that's located in the eastern portion of the harbor. And then on the Hudson River side, we have a major plant, the largest plant by far in Yonkers and southwest Yonkers. We have a plant as well in Ossining and one in Peekskill. All of those facilities operate on a 24/7 basis to treat sewerage. Our commissioner of that department, Vincent Kapicki, has been in contact with us this morning. They have all the protocols in place to make sure that sewage continues to be received and treated. And they're also prepared to handle those areas where we have pump stations that pump the sewage because of low-lying residential areas. If we do lose power or if there's an incident of flooding that affects those pump stations, we have staff that's prepared to go out and deal with it. We don't know what will happen, but we are as prepared as we can be for that eventuality. Our county health department, under the direction of Dr. Charlita Amler, is in standby mode. They normally have a post-storm responsibility. They're the ones that inspect and determine whether conditions are safe and healthy. The Parks Department would not reopen beaches until they got a sign-off from the Department of Health that there was no residual pollution that might have been stirred up by the storm. And they also interact very closely with those communities that are potentially affected by the flooding and some of the nursing homes that exist in those areas. We have quite a lot of them in New Rochelle, along Pelham Road. They had a conference call already amongst themselves with the Department of Health, and they are at the ready as well. We have a contractual working relationship, and it's a friendly working relationship with the United Way of Westchester and Putnam. They provide our 211 services. That's the number you dial when you want to ask a question about anything short of what would be an emergency. An emergency is a 911 call, but information is a 211 call. And for our purposes today, United Way is still fully staffed. They're doing it remotely, and they have additional call centers available in case there are any power outages. And then just to be clear about some of our other responsibilities in our Department of Public Works and Transportation, we have Westchester County Airport within our responsibility. The airport remains open, On the commercial side, which is when you would go to the airport to fly someplace, we expect that there's a tremendous number of cancellations of both inbound and outbound flights. So call your carrier before driving to the airport to find out if the flight that's scheduled in or scheduled out is in fact going to happen. And I would think, since we knew this was coming for a few days, a number of flights have long been canceled. Certainly if equipment doesn't come inbound from out of the area, then it's not here to go outbound and then take another flight. The Beeline bus system is still operating on our Sunday schedule, which is a reduced schedule. There have been no plans at this moment in the 11 o'clock hour to reduce that service. We know that those who rely on Sunday bus traffic will continue to have that happening. If conditions worsen, then we will take those changes that we have to make. And we ask you, if you have a set travel plan that involves the Beeline bus system, check our website at westchestergov.com and arrow into the Beeline bus system. If there are any changes in service, we'll announce it that way. And we'll also stay in touch with the electronic media and the online media, so if there are changes, that they would be able to update that. And our friends at Metro North have announced, and you no doubt have heard this already, if you're standing on a platform, you know this already, the New Haven line service has been suspended all day today. That also extends to the Danbury, the Waterbury, and the New Canaan branches that feed into the New Haven line. So if you are in that corridor from Portchester to Pelham to Mount Vernon East, there will be no train service today on that line. There's reduced service on the Harlem and the Hudson lines because of the severe weather. There's no service all the way up the Hudson line to the northern parts of Putnam and Dutchess County. So I'm going to ask our County Police Lieutenant Joe Peters to come on board. He has some very practical experience in dealing with stranded motorists and the people that report to them, and he'll give you an idea of some of the things that we should keep in mind on this day, because our parkways do get flooded. They are named after rivers, in case you didn't notice that. The Sawmill River Parkway, the Hutchison River Parkway, the Bronx River Parkway. So with that thought in mind, Lieutenant Peters, please give us your advice.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lieutenant Joe Peters of the Westchester County Department of Public Safety. Just a couple things in place of our planning for this event, knowing this was coming. Over the course of the last few days, we've been watching the weather reports, and in anticipation of this, we've planned extra officers out on the parkways, as well as the municipalities that we patrol. These officers are out there to respond to flooding locations, accidents, down trees, down power lines. We also have some of our specialized emergency service officers out there that are specially trained for events like today, and they have the tools and equipment in their emergency service trucks specific to events like this today. And in anticipation of the weather getting worse, we could ramp up our personnel rather quickly. As of right now, we have no reported incidents on the roadway significant to weather-related, but we anticipate with the heavy rain coming shortly that to change, and that could change rapidly. So again, because of that, we will ramp up our personnel. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. We ask people to stay home and not come out and drive. But if you need to come out, and you do come out, a couple of things to keep in mind, specifically to flooding, down power lines, trees, and things like that. If you come across a flooded area, flooded road, please do not drive through it. The flooding, if you were to drive through it, your car could stall, and ultimately you'd be stuck, and we'd have to send out officers to get you out of that flooded area. Not to mention, if you pull into a flooded area, with the weather coming, the flood could rise dramatically and quickly, and because of that, you may become trapped. Also, down power lines, please do not drive over down power lines. If you come across a down power line, do not drive over it. Stop your car, call 911. Our officers will respond out and assist you out of the situation safely. Also, if you see down trees, please, again, call us and we will send officers out to you. If you come across any barricades, whether they're cones, wooden horses, flares, they're there for a reason. Please do not drive around them. They're there because there's some sort of safety issue up ahead. Again, please do not drive around them. Turn your car around. If you become stuck inside of one of those areas, call us and we respond out and get you out of there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Peters. Our Public Safety Department is headed by our Commissioner Sheriff Tom Gleason, and we appreciate him and the men and women of the department for all of the work both that you have done and that you're doing today under very stressful situations. I failed to introduce, and I apologize for this, Hernani de Almeida, who is with us here, and he's going to be speaking in a few seconds. He is a Deputy Commissioner of our Department of Public Works, and he will provide in Spanish some of the content that we provided here today in English. So, Hernani, thank you for being with us today. As we get ready to talk about the more generic storm preparations, these are also things that fit into the level of common sense, but we repeat them because it's important that you take the proper action. As the storm worsens, it will be too late for you to do some of these. If you haven't charged up your electrical devices, it'll be too late when the power goes out. So Commissioner Richard Wishney and Deputy Commissioner Susan Spear will give us some of the practical things in the world of emergency services and in the world of emergency preparedness. Richard, Susan.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. And as the County Executive indicated, we are well prepared for the events that might unfold in the next 24, 48 hours and thereafter. We will repeat some of the information. As the County Executive said, it's important to hear this and to understand that what we're telling you and asking you to do is for the benefit of the public safety. We do want to indicate again that the County Emergency Operations Center is open. It'll remain open throughout the events as they unfold, and we will take the necessary steps to either increase or decrease those activities. A number of the key departments are represented in the Emergency Operations Center, which includes the National Weather Service, New York State, and FEMA. The County Executive hosted a conference call this morning with local officials. There was more than 125 people on that call. We also had a call the day before with the nursing homes along the Sound Shore. Unfortunately, they have had serious flooding in the past, and we wanted to be prepared in case there's additional flooding during this storm. Just so you know, the purpose of the EOC is to serve as a clearinghouse for information and to coordinate preparedness, response, and recovery activities. It allows the county executive to direct the response of county government and support local municipal officials as they work to serve their residents and businesses. I do want to indicate one other thing and reinforce it. The county executive indicated that there are a number of professionals that serve throughout various administrations. Dennis Del Borgo is one of them. You heard from him earlier. He's had tremendous experience. He's been a wonderful assistance in preparation for this storm. And we have a number of people that work in our Office of Emergency Management that are also professionals and have been here with great experience over time. At this time, I'd like to ask our Deputy Commissioner Susan Spears to give us some additional information. Susan.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to first thank the County Executive, Deputy County Executive, and Director McDonald for their leadership and support. It makes such a difference in situations like this when you have a strong leadership. So we're very grateful for that. We are in an activated emergency operations center situation. It's great to have everybody located in one place so that we can make decisions very quickly as things change. As you've seen, the weather has changed rapidly, and we're all in one place and able to respond as quickly as possible. We do have FEMA and New York State co-located with us, which is very helpful. Yesterday, the state requested a pre-landfall disaster declaration, which was approved by President Biden this morning. So that will be a big help to us in our preparations for the storm because we have the emergency declaration and the funding we need to move forward. Please do not be complacent by the fact that this storm is not making a direct hit on Westchester. Even though it's not making a direct hit, we will feel the impacts. We have seen this movie before. When you have strong winds and you have heavy rains, you get power outages, you get roads closed, and all of those impacts to your families and your individuals. So don't be complacent. Please take this very seriously. I especially want to say this to the people on the Sound Shore. We have a situation, think of the movie The Perfect Storm. We have at least 2 high tides that will occur during the heaviest rains of this storm. The winds are coming in a direction that push the water into the Sound, combined with the high tides and a full moon. So you have an increased storm surge from the storm. You have a full moon, which increases the storm surge even further. You have the winds increasing the storm surge even further. It is a perfect storm. There will be flooding on the Sound Shore. Please be prepared. We in the county are very prepared to deal with these emergencies, and we ask you to also be prepared yourselves. Charge up your phone right now. Charge them up. Get it fully charged. Make sure you find your flashlights now while your power is still on. Make sure you put fresh batteries in those flashlights.